broadcaster for 25 plus years. Got into the technology business in the late 90s. We were talking before we got started. Before podcasting had a name in 2004, there were a group of about 5 of us in LA who were doing audio and video on web, which is actually what podcasting became. So, that career and being in technology has taken me an incredibly long way. And it's interesting how it all came about, because if you talk about the start of the life versus where I'm at now, as Michael, we were talking a minute ago, it's like the anomaly in it because of the way that life is structured. So just blessed to be alive and just blessed to be here.
So you was telling me you're a little bit familiar with the fatherless issue, and there was some of that played into your life and some of your family. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. So my dad left when I was 3 minutes old. He said I wasn't his kid. Okay, so I grew up, it was just me and my mom, and then my mom got married again, and so I have a younger brother and sister, and turns out their dad became a drug addict, and so I was the man of the house at 13. I started working at 13, I've been working ever since, and I had to support and raise them a large part of their life into their teenage years. So I understand the impact of not having a dad around. Growing up in San Francisco, things were great until my sophomore year of high school. We moved to the East Bay, a city called Richmond, California. So at the time, Richmond, California was the second most violent city in the country. The general murder rate was 7 times the national average, but when you got into some of the communities, it went as high as 5,000 times the national average. So it was like being in a penitentiary. And so just surviving that, here I am without a dad, really kind of the breadwinner for the household and trying to make all of this happen, it puts a strain on you. And there were any number of instances in a gang environment where things were difficult, where you could go the wrong way. I know people I went to high school with that are just getting out of prison. They did 25 years. So getting through that and helping to raise my brother and sister, they're great. They've got kids of their own, but my brother has this fight now. As a dad, he was put through hell. And he's such a great guy. He's great. My niece is like 8 now, but he's had to fight for years for her. And so seeing it from both sides and then helping him to handle that, we're in this weird place where the men that actually want to be dads don't get an opportunity. It's the craziest thing to me. Like, men are saying, listen, I want to be a father, I want to be involved, but then it's either the court system or some other system or some people that are keeping them away from doing what they want to do, and they literally put it all on the line. My brother spent so much money trying to get through the system. He's like, listen, I'm working, I'm taking care of my kid, I just want to be a part of my daughter's life.
So you get 2 different generations, and I'm kind of glad you talked about that, because back in the day there were a lot of deadbeat fathers. It was very common for fathers to take off. Nowadays it's very common for the fathers to be fighting tooth and nail, and they're facing that deadbeat dad stereotype that is just so unfair. I'm curious, do you have kids, RC?
So I don't have any biological kids, but my wife has 3 kids. And so they, when I came into their life, one was already an adult and one was in high school. So for me, I never really thought I'd be that great of a dad. So in the business I was in, I raised my brother and sister. I get into the broadcast business. I'm moving all the time. It's the nature of the beast for us, right? And I said, you know what? I never want to put a kid through that experience, but I was so blessed. My wife and I have been married just over 5 years now. Her kids are so great, and they help me to understand what being a dad, like the right way to do those things. And our relationship is great. So we've got a boy and a girl. The boy, Alex, is almost 30. He's decided to start a business now. And we talk a lot because his dad was somewhat absent and is not the best person in the world. So that my bond with him is very strong. And for him to have a positive example, he knows my story and what I went through. And then Saber, our youngest, just turned 21. So when I came into her life, she was just starting high school. And to see her grow up, they're both entrepreneurs, but to see the importance, her dad is in her life. But then to have another father figure, it's so important for kids to have that. And I got a chance to see it through different eyes. What an amazing experience.
So I'm just curious, the reason I asked you that, not having a father and knowing what, him taking off, how did that influence you becoming a father? I mean, was you scared when you found out she had kids and that they was going to be in the home?
No, actually, I wasn't. I think you have the concerns that anyone has, right? You're
Right.
you're new in their life, and you want to be conscious of the relationship between mom and kids. And,
Right.
it was great though, because they were very accepting. They saw that I loved their mom, and they took that leap forward. And our relationship, our bonds now are very deep.
Right.
So it didn't scare me so much. I thought about being a dad more as, boy, I chose this career, and I wouldn't want to put a kid through, hey, every year we're going to move,
Right.
or every 2 years, or we're going to go places that maybe aren't the best for education. So I never wanted to put a child through that. That's why I chose not to. My sister has 4 now, and my brother has my niece, and they're great parents. But for me, I was like, it's not my thing. But actually having kids in the way that I have them, it's been an incredible experience for me, and it's helped me grow as a man, and then provide them advice as they look at their future and them wanting to have kids.
So, RC, let me ask you a question here. You sound like you're a person of faith or a religious person. I've heard you say a couple of times you're blessed.
Yes.
I mean, do you consider yourself to be a person of faith?
Yeah, so funny story about that. I was actually raised Baptist
Okay.
in San Francisco, of all places, but I used to spend my summers in Texas, so super religious.
Right.
There were so many stereotypes that came true. I was so turned off by it. I was a Buddhist for 25 years. I
Oh, wow.
converted. And within the last 2 years, I've actually converted back
Yeah.
to Christianity. So yes, I'm certainly a man of faith.
So what I wanted to ask you was this: your experience with a father who left you when you were 3 middle school.
Yeah.
How did that influence your perception of God, especially when you talk about God the Father? Did it have any impact on you at all?
Not in that sense. And I think what I've learned as I've gotten older is everything happens for a reason. I think 2 things happen when that happens. Either you go to the side of the world's against me, I give up, I don't care, I'm just going to take this path, or you become hyper-driven and determined. And I certainly fell into that category. Like I was just, pardon my French, hell-bent on being successful and not becoming that person. I said I would never do that to somebody else. Right? And so I've made sacrifices in my life in doing that, but I've always been, and I still am, very driven. So it motivated me, really, in a way. And having to go to work early, support a family, do all of these things that I didn't know how to do because I was a kid myself. Right? But I've always been driven that way. So it's like a fire inside me. And whenever I can share that message, which I think the blessing today is now I get to share this message with a larger audience, is if it's happened to you, don't let it own you. One of the things I say as someone of mixed race is, if we spent as much time celebrating excellence as we do giving power to oppression, we'd be 10,000 miles further down the road.
Absolutely.
So RC, we're almost out of time. I want to give you one last question though. We usually get this from the father's perspective or the mom's perspective. From a child's perspective, with your father leaving, how does it make you feel knowing that these fathers are fighting tooth and nail to be in their children's life and not being gave that chance?
It hurts, having that personal experience of my brother going through this experience, it hurts. So I don't hold what my father did to me against fathers who want to be fathers. I'm actually rooting for them. And I'm like, thank God that you want to be in your child's life. Like, you understand the importance of that. And my brother is younger than me, but I have a huge amount of respect for him as a man, for him taking on that role and being very aggressive and saying, no, I'm going to be in my child's life. So if you guys are out there and you're doing this, I'm rooting for you.
Absolutely. All right, RC, it was so nice to meet you, my man.
Thank you.
Everybody, stick around. We will be right back. Awesome, man.
Good?
Yeah, I want to get a picture with you right
Sure, man.
before you